Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Breakfast with Blaha. And today I'm having fat-free Greek yogurt, walnuts, and milled flax seeds. Going hard in that protein, polyunsaturated fats. Which again is extremely helpful for longevity as a lifter. People think about what's in here. Think about inflammation, bone density, all that stuff if you think of the contents of this meal. But let's go over and talk about longevity under the barbell. This is something that I've said many times. You'll see a lot of other conjugate coaches who've done it a very long time will point out. All right, a lot of them will point out, even though some of them have been hurt due to certain other methods they use with all of it, that one of the biggest problems with linear block periodization is not that it doesn't work. Okay? I'm not saying it doesn't work, because it clearly works. It's put people into world records, right? Plenty of elite athletes have used linear block periodization. How many of them are doing it still into their 40s? Don't see a lot of that though, do you? That doesn't really happen. People who focus on linear block periodization accumulate more injuries. And the reason for that, if we look at the data that's out there, we know why. So what's the number one cause of injuries? What does the research say? Overuse. Problem with linear periodization is it just continually, progressively overloads the same movements. That's how it works, right? The idea with it is usually bring up your classic lifts. So how would that work? Clean snatches, squats, all that stuff if you're doing Olympic lifting, right? Front squats, back squats. Clean snatches, push presses, right? Stuff like that. That would be the basis of your programming. If it's powerlifting, squat, bench, and deadlift. Maybe some other accessory work. There are some champions who do linear block periodization with those three lifts plus pull-ups. And then maybe a couple of accessories. Not even that many. And they just run that system. It's very simple, very effective. Right? There's problems we pointed out besides the injuries in the past of why it's certainly not for everyone. But there are people who claim to train that way who have squatted, well over 900 pounds. They're out there. Particularly Eastern Bloc, Russians, things like that. You'll see that, right? They will literally do those 4 exercises with a small amount of accessories using linear block periodization year after year and reach extreme elite levels of strength. Okay, but here's our problem. What does it look like? So let's take your squat, for example. If you're running linear periodization, you might do a 3-week block, 12 rep sets of squats. Program percentages of your maxes, right? Okay. Then you might do a 3-week block of 8s. Again, with percentages put in, there'll be oftentimes percentages of your max. Sometimes the volume will change through that block. It might start with 3 sets and build up to 5 sets of workout. Then what do? Next 3-week block will be 5s. Okay. Next 3-week block will be 3s, and maybe the last week of it they'll hit singles, and they'll try to PR. And then they deload. So if they have a meet, what happens? They've got a meet coming, they start this 12 weeks out. Run this system, try to PR at the meet, hit whatever their best lifts are. If they don't do a meet, they just record the PRs. They max every 12 weeks. And they build into going heavier. Like higher reps, moderate reps, low reps, max. On the same exercises over and over and over. Okay. Talk about overuse. Isn't that kind of how we get overuse? The reason a lot of these 5x5s work great for novices, decent for intermediates, and then almost no one gets really advanced doing them. Like the various classic 5x5 where we're just, running the same exercises, and you get beat up. You get hurt if you're not careful. But this is what happens. We accumulate with a system like this overuse. It means our injuries are going to go higher. Now, people will say, couldn't they rotate lifts? Well, they could, but it may not work as well towards what they're trying to do because they're having to accumulate into those lifts. Not really classic block periodization anymore if we change lifts every 3 weeks. You could. It starts to get real complicated. If you're going to do that, though, you might as well go to a system built and proven to work around rotating lifts. Some of them will rotate their accessories all the time to help. But the problem is that the main lifts are still the big main lifts. And they're done every week, every block, for years on end. Okay? The overuse issue gets higher and higher and higher. Inflammation in general becomes harder to control. Now, you want to be a champion and you use this system, you can still be a champion. Keeping in mind it is intended for people on gear. And you increase as you go, right? You add to what you're taking as you get to the low reps so that you can get the hypertrophy to replace the volume that you're losing. It's kind of designed with that in mind. For those unaware, these systems are designed that way. But you become a champion, but are you going to do it for 20 years? And what happens if people say, well, I've been running the system, I've gotten hurt a lot, now I'm going to change. Yeah, but now you've gotten hurt a lot. You have injuries that are going to impact any training style now. That's the thing. A lot of guys run it for a decade and then realize, man, I just get destroyed. I get destroyed. And then they change to something else, but now they're fighting with that overuse. I have a client who fortunately only did it for about 3 years, competing in powerlifting, and then he came over and put him on conjugate. We've gotten him stronger, and he's like, I am less beat up, less sore, I hurt less, and I'm stronger since we've been running this system for 2 years than I was running block periodization. He used to train that way. He has some issues from it, though. I mean, he has elite numbers for his body weight at this point. But he has some lingering issues as a result of it. He has problems with his SI joint that came from doing the block stuff for 3 years straight with squats and deadlifts. Right? You're not going to run this system for 20 years. You're not going to train this way and still be lifting big numbers when you get to my age. That's the problem with it. It's a big problem with it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.